Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video. Really do appreciate you coming out here today, getting some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta going forward. And we even give you those weekly ranges for Microsoft. But on this channel, we do a lot of things. And the main thing I wanted to point out today is we very well might be getting the last bull trap of 2024 before this is actually ripped away. So we need to pay attention to a lot of things today as we are seeing exactly what we talked about live happen here, curling up into positive territory on a lot of these charts here, seeing that even curl up on the hourly, showing that positivity going on into the end of the day. So let's get into some technical analysis. Let's get you guys some of these daily ranges for tomorrow. Let's get into it. Now on this channel, I like to say something called trade like water. So we are open to some kind of correction, but as we do keep trickling higher and higher and higher, as we ignore some things going on in the overall economy, things do not look good as far as inflation goes. It doesn't look good in the banking sector. So we have to pay attention to those things. And we see all these major divergences. So it is my personal opinion that this will end very badly with some kind of bear market, but I am open to a correction. I want to point that out before we get into the technicals here. As we go down into a 2-hour, really, actually, maybe we should go a little bit deeper and show what we were paying attention to throughout the day. Okay, so we were overall looking for maybe a 30-minute to curl up into positive territory. If you were live watching, we go live every single morning, and we were watching this live, we were stating how we could go down to that bottom side of the weekly expected move, but as we linger up in this area for a long period of time, we don't want to break through this for very long. We do it once, we test it here, and then we see that rip higher, curling up into positive territory. We overall were just saying, hey, that 20-day moving average is down in this area and we haven't lost it yet. So you should not have any kind of crash really on your mind. I know Nvidia gave us that signal, so we had to pay attention to it, but Nvidia needed to lose its 20. That didn't happen. We're seeing the SPY turn up into positive territory towards the end of the day, something that we were talking about throughout the day happening at the end of the day, and it actually happened. So that's pretty cool. We actually came out of that daily expected move. So now we got to pay attention to the new ones, which would be 526.20 to the upside. We have 520.14 to the downside here. Now, the funny part about this is we're going to see a big move possibly before Jerome Powell talks, possibly before we get PCE. And we know that PCE actually is supposed to maybe come in a little bit hotter. So that's actually what's expected at this point. And we could see this start to head down. So we'll have to pay attention to that moving forward. Pay attention to any divergences. I actually think this has a good shot to come up higher, test that weekly, and maybe we actually get some consolidation and get a little 30-minute divergence in here. So I just wanted to pay attention to that. I just want you to pay attention to the grand scheme of things. We are open to pretty much all scenarios on this channel. We flip back and forth, and it's really been working for us. So the reason that I'm saying this could be a trap, okay, is because of how this 2-hour looks. If this 2-hour is able to curl up and then we see that fade by the end of the day, maybe as we test that weekly expected move, the top side up in here, that would tell me if we get up to this point, well, this line right here, this is where the shorters, the sellers have been lurking along this trend throughout this uptrend. So we have to pay attention. If we get a strong move up to here pretty quick, we could see that start to fail. We could see that fade throughout the day. And that's really what I'm paying attention to as far as tomorrow goes, because we have some big news going on with Jerome Powell. Now, will that consolidate and go a little bit higher? Possibly into next week, and we'll talk about that. But I'm really leaning towards a top coming maybe in the next couple of days, at least for some kind of correction, if not some kind of stock market crash. And we're gonna talk about a possible crash happening when we look at yields. The interesting part here is we will pay attention to the difference in the SPY and the Qs going into tomorrow. So if you could join us live tomorrow morning, we go live at the open and we stay live for a couple hours there. You can ask questions. We look around at a bunch of different stocks. I'm very, very active while live. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that. I know a lot of people came in, smash that like button for me, and a bunch of people taking the course at this point, because this is a very good time to get that info, because you would learn how to get into things like this, not get scared out of anything. See this curl up in positive territory, but that is the funny thing about the Qs. The Qs have not confirmed this move higher just yet, so just be a little bit careful with this, as it could fade back down early on in the day. But as that is a strong move on the SPY, I suspect that positivity to continue going on into tomorrow. We could be possibly seeing that cup and handle form up in this area. And V just subscribed. So that was my subscriber coming in there. So thank you so much if you are subscribed to the channel. Now, this is just interesting. What we need to pay attention to is if the Qs do not confirm that move higher while the SPY goes up to its weekly expected move, we'll pay attention to that going into Thursday. And it's very important to pay attention to the stock market tomorrow. The reason is Jerome Powell is talking and we get PCE data while the market is technically closed, okay? So that is something to pay attention to, and we could be getting him talk actually twice, and we're going to go live on Friday for the morning talk, okay? So we'll pay attention to this, but in the morning, you might see these Qs actually start to tick up. That actually might give us some positivity, and this is what we were paying attention to pretty much all day, those 30 minutes, those 15 minutes, able to roll up into positive territory. You're gonna look at the 15-minute here, about to roll up into positive territory for the Qs. That's when the real strength will come in for this move. So you want to pay attention to some upside, and where is that upside you're gonna pay attention to? Well, 448.88 to the upside, right, for the daily expected move, and 440.98. So what this means is this is all the options market has priced in for tomorrow. Whether we go down or up, this is all the options market priced in for tomorrow. And if we get excited out of that, we have a 68% chance that that actually comes back in this zone. Okay, and then same with the other way. If we get excited to the downside, we have a 68% chance to land back in this zone. So just pay attention to this going into tomorrow. I know it's a shortened trading week, so we're getting a little bit lighter volume, but we could see some bigger moves go into a big event, which is PCE. And as we are climbing higher and higher and higher on these daily charts, eventually this is going to fail. Eventually we are going to see a correction and maybe even a crash at this point based on what TLT and those yields are doing today. The cool part about following this channel, you want to look at multiple stocks because different stocks will tell you different things. We saw that some stocks were telling us there are divergences to the upside, they need to go down, and that very well happened in a lot of those stocks. So we were able to make some money on those type of trades. Now, this is the one that I took because Apple, seeing some negativity for quite some time, didn't want to break below this level, right? Didn't want to close below. I see all the divergences down here on the MACD on the 30-minute, even a little red bar right here to give me that triple divergence across the way here. So we see that positivity come in the morning, and look at that, we are rewarded, right? We are rewarded, and we talked about this head and shoulders, and we even said live this might not be that big of a right shoulder. Why did we say that? Well, we built up so much liquidity in here, we built up some liquidity in here that this might just be enough to head higher, and that's why overall on this move, paying attention to even a 15-minute can be helpful. And you don't have divergences up here at this moment. You have one small one on the MACD, not on the RSI at the same time. So if we wanted to, early in the morning, we could see that pull down. But I'm going to tell you, I'm really leaning towards Apple hitting something around 175.50, maybe even tomorrow, or at least going into next week. So this is where I'm going to be paying attention to Apple. And if we start to move higher from there, there's something I can pay attention to, which would be a divergence to the upside. Okay, so there could be some kind of double top, some kind of divergence up in this area. This is a zone where we've sold off. It's been very important for a long time. We gapped below it, used it as resistance to head lower. We used it again as resistance to fail here. Now do we trickle back up maybe to the top of it and then see that fail again, giving us some kind of 2-hour divergence down here on the MACD. So this is what I'm going to pay attention to going into tomorrow. If we see a bunch of strength out of Apple, this is going to be a big red flag. Maybe that even goes on into next week, and then we see that start to fade after Jerome Powell talks on Friday. Tesla overall just consolidating right at its weekly expected move. Okay, so the weekly expected move, we give those out on Patreon if you want those for the individual stocks like we do for free on the SPY and the Qs for YouTube. Go over down in the description, right? Look at Patreon, join up because we are going to be giving away a free one-on-one session with me by the end of April. So you have a month to join, and then you can be in the drawing for a one-on-one session to try to help you understand these indicators a little better. Now, if you don't want to join the Patreon, you can get that course down below in the description that'll teach you how to trade a lot of these things. We actually did see the trade setup for Tesla. This is a trade I took. I took it and I took my profit here. And then based on how the market is, I do not want to take any calls for too long of time. That is what trading like water means. It means I am taking profit a little bit earlier, but down here, I notice there's a big divergence here, but overall, the daily divergence is what's really signaling to me that we're going to see those higher moves in Tesla, right? So I do not bank against any kind of crossing on the MACD, especially when there is a divergence below. I'm not going to take any kind of put against this. When it did curl up on the MACD, we saw those 30-minute divergences, but you have to take profit quick right here because look at that. The daily momentum takes over and we start to head upward. So now we're closing above the 20 and we could get that test of the 50. So this is overall how we said Tesla would head higher. Okay, we said that this would overall create some kind of head and shoulders. And what is it doing right now and why there could be positivity tomorrow? Well, look at this. Left, head, here's your right shoulder. Now, maybe that needs some more time in this area before it breaks up, but look at this up in here. If it starts to break through there, we could see a positive move even going into next week, but eventually that will start to fade. Now, Amazon's one that we've been doing pretty good with a long time. Like when this move happened, we overall were like, okay, look out for the head and shoulders that can form with this bull flag. And we said this most likely comes up into this area, drops down, gives you that right shoulder. And at this point, you got to say, hey, we broke through here. We're retesting it a little bit. Now we're completing this cup in here. We get the handle that completes a cup here. We get some more liquidity in here. And now we maybe head higher if we can break through this level up here. I'd say something like 180.50 would be a good level to break through at this point. So we can look at a 2 hour. Let's see if the 2 hour goes upward. But you're noticing there is the potential here for higher price action. And I want to pay attention to that for Amazon. This could go on for a few days here. This could go on for a week or so. We could see this curl up and get a more definitive 2 hour divergence. Now you do have those all across here. So if we do get some kind of move upward and that fades tomorrow, pay attention to that because you might be getting a small divergence right here that hints, hey, I'm really close to the center line. I'm about to go into a negative trend right before a big event like PCE. Be very careful taking trades over the weekend. We do not know the data that is going to come out. No one knows the data that comes out, maybe except for Nancy Pelosi and her husband. But we can notice that if we do head higher and then we get good news with PCE, we can see stocks move even higher. If we see this move higher and we get bad news with PCE, we could see that drop off. Same goes the other way, right? So we don't necessarily know. So we would like to react to that. And as the market is closed, most people will not be out there trading. So we want to be a little careful. Do not ruin your weekend with some kind of trade, just a YOLO play. If you want to play this, I highly suggest you take a smaller size trade. Nvidia, we were saying, we saw that sell-off at the end of yesterday, and people were right. I think people really were just repositioning at the end of quarter one, and so we have to pay attention to that. But overall, when we see that selling come in, we'll show you guys how we caught that selling, actually, and we gave you that information live yesterday. And we actually gave you that in the videos a lot of times. We said a 2 hour divergence is what can make this thing really sell off, and we got that at this level. Now we said people were saying crash and things like that. I noticed that sometimes with Nvidia, should I take short? Should I take short? We haven't even lost the 20 during this whole run. I know I've done it a bunch of times. I'll just do it one time right here. Look, the 20 held us up. We came down towards the 20. It held us up. Until we lose the 20, this crash signal, I would say, isn't fully in play. Okay, so really pay attention if we're able to lose the 20 at this point, because that's going to be very important. Right now, we're able to hold above it. So that is a good sign for Nvidia, but it looks like it could make another move down. So what was that crash signal we were paying attention to, and how could you have caught this big move down? Well, we just noticed big divergences. We noticed big divergences across the way here and big divergences all the way down here on the RSI and MACD at the same time. So there is strength behind this, and we can see that daily start to head down from here. Now, the good part about this is once you saw this bar cross on this MACD, that was your confirmation that there was going to be some kind of selling because of this divergence, or at least high potential for some selling because of that divergence confirming. So you don't want to take any upside when you see this signal. What you want to do is wait for that to curl back up. And right now we have the potential for that to happen as we are at that center line. So we could see a positive move from here. Something I am leaning towards is some kind of divergence down here, but I wanted to talk about this. A lot of people were trying to ask me live, should I take a trade? Should I take calls? Should I take calls? First of all, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you the signals. You have to learn these things for yourself. And that's why the course is there. I am here to help, but I can't tell you to buy or sell. All right. Now, if you see this come down, well, it's going into negative territory. So you got to be careful. Once it goes into negative territory, right on this bar right here told us this is going into negative territory. This right here should have been your signal. Hey, I should get out of any kind of upside to Nvidia because it looks like the probabilities are we're going to see lower prices. So what I wanted to pay attention to was if we see a downward move tomorrow on Nvidia. Well, we know 880 is very important. Why? Because that 20-day moving average is right around this area. So if we see that reaction down, do we actually get some kind of divergence that tells us that Nvidia is actually going to bounce on the hourly and curl up on the MACD? So the 15-minute likes to roll up the hourly. You guys know that I really like my 30-minute, my 2-hour, and my daily charts. But every once in a while, I have to look at these, and that's perfectly fine. Hasn't curled up, but it's close to positive territory. So if we do get some kind of positivity here, couple green bars here, we could see an upward move with Nvidia going on into tomorrow, maybe going on into next week. But I want to pay attention to this. If this does get really excited and creates a little hourly or 2-hour divergence, something like that, 30-minute divergence, I will pay attention to that. We'll be watching it live if we see some kind of ballistic move from Nvidia. But as of right now, be open to some kind of divergence forming around 880 before that wants to head higher, getting a full retest of the 20. So pretty much you're going to see positivity as long as Nvidia can curl up into positive territory. Keep it very, very simple for yourself. There's no reason to take a trade here. And that's because in my course, we talk about 3 to 5 reasons to take a trade, and we give you some of those reasons you can use, and we learn about a lot of those reasons that make a lot of sense. What makes sense in here? Well, we're coming up into a point of support, yeah, but I haven't seen the MACD curl up. I haven't seen go positive yet. I don't have divergences down here. There's not multiple reasons to take the trade. So if I took any kind of call at this level, especially as we are flagging as of right now, it would just be a YOLO play. That is called gambling, not trading based on probabilities. AMD we did very good with, right? We said that hourly curling over would be bad, so it needs to not confirm that by closing below this level, okay? We said that in the video, and then we said that live plenty of times. We never even tested that level, so we shouldn't be too worried about this. Curling up, maybe even going to go positive at this point. So you don't necessarily have like a big divergence here, but you do have that big difference between the MACD, between the RSI, and the actual price action. If anything, you have a divergence between this point right here. So this point right here to down here, you actually do have a 1-hour divergence, and that's something to pay attention to. But you know I like my 30-minute, and look at that. We have divergences all across this. We built up a ton of liquidity in here, and really you're just within a range. So if you break this to the upside, you're probably going to see a strong move. We're probably going to come fill this gap. But if you see that break to the downside, then we're going to see a strong move the other way, and this AMD negative territory, negative trend is going to continue. So we'll pay attention to that live tomorrow. Now, if this wanted to break down, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is going to be great liquidity. So something that I could see definitely happening, I think there's a good probability of it happening, is if we break to the upside, right? We fill this gap, we come up into this area, that fades, and we see us break down to this level and get some kind of bounce. Look at that. We could use this liquidity for that left shoulder, get the head, and then have a right shoulder to actually head further down on AMD. AMD looking pretty weak in this negative trend, but you'll notice, where is it? It's right by positive territory, so that trend can flip over as soon as tomorrow. Meta is going to be interesting, especially with the 30-minute. This thing has to see some major strength to get back into positive territory, so we have to pay attention to that. And the overall thinking with this is, when you have a lot of room to go before you get to positive territory, you have a chance for some kind of lower high. So that's something you have to be open to. All we have to do, watch this MACD curl up, curl back down into negative territory. If that happens, most likely we're taking out this level, heading lower. This still looks kind of flaggy to me as well. So something you could really pay attention to for some upside is if we actually see the 2-hour curl over. So if we see the 2-hour curl up, you're noticing it's very close to that positive territory, so we can see a positive move. But will that give us some kind of divergence? That's why we want to pay attention to those weekly expected moves. So be paying attention to your weekly expected moves for Meta if you are part of the Patreon. If you're not part of the Patreon, you should go down in the link in the description, because it's been very, very helpful to us. And if this just curls up into positive territory, we can see a possible trade setup using those weekly ranges. I want to go extremely bullish. Let's go way bullish. If we're going to see some kind of just blow off to the upside in the month of April, then we are most likely going to see a daily MACD curl over. And I'm going to use Meta to show this. It's built up liquidity in for quite some time, starting to consolidate with a triangle here. If we're going to see positivity come in, you're going to see this daily MACD curl up into positive territory. But right now we're seeing a lot of, choppy price action up here, which usually means we're approaching some kind of top. So it would be interesting to top out in the last day of March trading. So that would be something to pay attention to. See if this wants to make a move higher, create some kind of 2-hour divergence in this area. But if you see extended strength, then maybe we get that 2-hour divergence later, and we actually see this curl up and give us that firm daily divergence down here closer to negative territory. That's what I'll be paying attention to on Meta moving forward. That's pretty much what I'll be paying attention to on every stock that we're covering today. But Luke, volatility is dropping lower, and if you were live, you know my take on volatility. A bunch of people coming in saying, when will volatility come back in? And that will be when this 2-hour divergence confirms. Okay, there is a 2-hour divergence forming right where we expected it to, right? We've been mentioning this up in this area. We were like, hey, this could come. Actually, we were mentioning it even during this drop. Hey, eventually we're going to come fill this gap, and that's when the crash is most likely going to have the highest probability of happening. I'll say it that way. So if this actually curls down, what would happen? We would reach a point of 12.12. So if this curls fully down and we get a firm divergence tomorrow, right, on the 2-hour, this could roll that daily back up. So right now you do have a potential divergence with a double bottom with this little red bar on the MACD and the RSI holding up higher, which is actually very bad. So if we see volatility come in right away, this thing can go above that center line on the RSI, and that would be very, very bad. So once the 2-hour divergence does confirm, we want to pay attention to a daily. Why do we have to pay attention to daily on the volatility here? It's because this is how we're going to know if a crash is happening, okay? If this goes positive again after building and all this wonkiness, getting tighter and tighter in this area, then we can see volatility go positive. We can see that go positive for quite some time. Okay, so you'll notice in the past, sometimes when we do actually have divergences, which we had down in here, we can notice that when it goes into positive territory very strongly, we get huge volatility spikes. We get bounces, sure, but then volatility spikes come in as we go into positive territory and remain there. So another crash signal we want to pay attention to. If this is not going to be a correction, then you aren't going to see this 50 able to hold above the 200 for very long. It's going to curl back down. So right now I'm really leaning towards it because even though we're seeing a lot of buying, a lot of upward price action, even as of the end of today, we can actually notice we're at all-time highs again. We're pretty much there. Where is the 50? It's getting closer and closer to crossing that 200, and that is your overall signal. So you really want to pay attention if volatility is able to get a closing bar above the 200, and then after that, if the 50 is able to cross the 200, that is a big crash indication. And if it stays above the 200, then you know that volatility is here to stay for a long time. One thing on the weekly to point out about volatility, look how tight this is on the Bollinger Bands. It is very, very tight. I looked back, 2008 was the last time we saw the Bollinger Band this tight, and we have potential credit crisis going on in multiple sectors of the market. We have bubbles in multiple sectors of the market. So this is very, very worrisome for stocks in general, the whole stock market, if we start to see the weekly go into positive territory, because you'll notice when we do go into positive territory, bad things happen. And if we remain up there a little bit, well, when the weekly goes positive on volatility, volatility is here to stay for quite some time. And that's why on my channel, I've been mentioning that I believe the real bear market, the real crash in the form of a bear market is coming by the end of March. And we might be right there right now. Being too bearish, this isn't the crash, nothing bad to see here. Okay, then why is the dollar acting like the stock market and just moving higher and higher, consolidating, moving higher and higher, right? We see an ABC move possible here. Not saying this could just be a correction. I'm definitely open to that. We trade the price action, but this is just my opinion at this point. The dollar going ballistic at this point, and who is selling all of their stocks and holding cash? That would be the insiders. The insiders are selling Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, everyone you can think. Hey, the CEO of Nvidia, that guy that we watched talk, who was definitely not funny and showed cats and then Nvidia crashed. Yeah, he sold Nvidia throughout all of this. All of this is him selling his stock to people like you and me. The retail traders are the ones holding stocks at this point. And as the dollar breaks out of this flag, we can see this start to go up. And eventually the correlation, the correct correlation, which is a negative correlation with the market, will take place. And we'll start to see price drop dramatically lower with the stock market. But as the dollar sees this creep higher and higher, once retail actually hits that sell button. You stuck around for the end of the video, so you get to see why I'm a little bit worried going into Jerome Powell on Friday. Okay, up here we have a 2-hour we have a daily divergence. I'm sorry about that. We have a daily divergence on the 10-year yield. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that the bond market says we need to cause these rates to go much lower, or at least force the Fed's hand in raising the rates. And I'm being genuine about that. They're saying that inflation can come back into this market, or something is breaking in the system and we need to lower these rates immediately and go into some kind of recession. That's what you're being told here. And you can see TLT, we were talking about this throughout the day, and look at that, the buy signal finally happening. We've been talking about TLT a little bit, seeing when that goes positive, okay? If this goes positive, we can see this break out of this wedge, start to head upward, and that would dramatically bring those yields down. Why would people run to TLT? Why would those yields need to drop? Well, something in the market must be very, very sick, and I truly believe Jerome Powell already knows that, and that's why he's saying we can't cut the rates due to that, due to the possibility of inflation. I think he genuinely is not wanting to be on the hook for something that is already broken. I think banks are going to fail, and this is going to be a huge banking crisis. If not, then we're probably going to see hyperinflation come back into this market if they don't raise the rates. So the main takeaway here is we trade like water. So we kind of were pretty knowledgeable about this moving higher. We genuinely were talking about it moving higher the whole time we were live. People coming in and seeing the thumbnail thinking, oh yeah, you bears, you're going to get screwed. We weren't bearish today. I know the thumbnail might look it, but overall, if you pay attention to the content, we are stating that this most likely was going to move higher, and we very well might be getting the last bull trap of 2024. And will something in the system break? Is that black swan maybe coming in the next couple of weeks? We'll have to find out, but until that actually happens, we're going to follow the price action. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You guys are joining the Patreon. People are taking the course, asking about the course, joining the live videos to ask about the course. All that stuff is great. I love looking at the stock market with you guys every single morning. It is a lot of fun, and I highly encourage you, if you are interested in learning a lot of this stuff, to take that course, because it is only $100 for the next almost 3 days. So you only have 3-ish days left to get that course for $100 before that price increases. So make sure to snag that, and be careful out there, as people might be running to TLT very soon, and I wonder why. Oh, sorry about that. Good luck on your trades tomorrow, and I hope you have a great night. Peace.